Today we're going to talk about the origin of the Pygmy people, Africa's little people of the Congo. It's from a book called The Wisdom of African Mythology by John J. Oliver, J.J. Oliver. And like I said, you know they say if you want to hide anything from black people, just put it in a book. Because niggas is too retarded to actually read anything. But this is his interpretation of the origin of pygmies and Africa's little people. The thing that they got to do, when reading this book, what he does is that he has a short story, and then that short story, a couple pages later, will turn into a kind of like a rhyme. All right? So we're going to read directly. Read along with me. It says, little people play an important role in the various mythologies of the world. There are leprechauns in Celtic mythology and the cave-dwelling dwarfs in Nordic mythology. There are certain things, however, that are common everywhere to little people of mythological literature. They are usually sensitive to their size. They often live in caves. They are skilled in certain arts, especially metalwork. These very same facts are verified in African mythology. Since dwarfs are found in Africa, one expects to find them in African mythology. The Swahili call these legendary dwarfs Wabilikomo. They were twice the distance from one's middle finger to one's elbow. The whole little people of Yayo folklore, they made bitter everything they touched. If they ran through your garden, their little feet made vegetables rot. The Abatwa were much smaller than all other small people. They walk under the grass and sleep in ant hills. They have no villages but live among the rocks. Dwarfs were usually contentious. They were envious of others because of their height. Among the various African tribes, all dwarfs asked the same question when they met strangers. When did you see me? If it were not from afar, then the stranger acknowledged dwarfs were somewhat tall. But if one did not see them until he was on top of them, they were angry, insulted, and often killed the intruder. A person shot with one of the dwarf's arrows could never see who shot him, for it came from under the grass. Among the Bushman dwarfs, some were gentle, but others waged war on every living thing. The Abatwa were Bushmen. In some parts of Africa, this name applied to the Pygmies. The Pygmies of Burundi considered themselves the true aborigines of the country. They were smiths and potters, hunters and nomads. They were mostly timid but cruel and irascible. They were so shy that they dug tunnels underground to avoid meeting people. Pygmies were very black, lean, and hairy. Their countrymen hated them and considered them animals. They were put down as subhuman because their life was so bare of material sophistication. African cosmology simply says of them, they have come, gotta flip the page, they have come otherwise. Some say they were from the cracks of the trees in the time of Woto, the fourth chief of the Bushgongo. When embarrassed by his family, Woto retired to the forest where in his loneliness he uttered incantations. The trees opened and little men came forth. These were pygmies. They were regarded with terror, and other tribes would never intermarry with them. And we'll read this riddle in just a second. Poem in just a second. One thing that needs to be known about the Rwanda genocide back in the 1990s is that one thing that the Hutu said about the Tutsi were very tall. They always said, cut them off at their very long legs. So who knows? Maybe the Hutus are related to the Pygmies. But I do know that the Pygmies have been persecuted by everybody. Going all the way back to King Leopold in the Congo. He used various tribes to attack the Pygmies, and it always fucked me up. Why would any European be scared of the smallest people in Africa? I don't know. But this is a riddle. I keep saying riddle. I mean a rhyme. Basically, the way, a lot of these things in Africa go is that everything rhymes. It's basically a poem. Short poem. Won't take me too long to read. Sorry for all this moving around, but, I'm trying to read while basically, trying to record while moving this around. Actually, I think the M is silent, kind of like the D in Django. Kanyingos. Kanyingos were a Pygmy tribe. Their bodies were quite small, but worse, they had misshapen heads, much like a basketball. They lived in caves at mountain tops where they were hardly known. If someone came, they ran so fast you'd think they were full grown. They were mostly shy and timid men, no larger than a child. But when you saw their ugly heads, you knew they must be wild. Their head size made everything difficult at night. It made them weep. They can't lay down. They must sit up if they intend to sleep. Top-heavy heads are troublesome when it is time for bed. If one lays down, he can't get up. He cannot move his head. Gotta flip the page. So they sleep sitting by a wall. When rising, it assists them. But if they fall throughout the day, they lay till their friends miss them. They carry horns about their belt to blow when they're in need. They hope someone will pick them up before they go to seize. It's fortunate there is no ice on streets where these guys live, although it would add humor to this narrative. They'd all be laying on their backs and blasting on their horns, just waiting for the ice to melt and looking quite forlorn. So much of life is lived like that, frustration all around. Just when we think we have stood up, we're face down on the ground. We need a sense of humor, then, in order to survive. Unless it were in constant use, we'd hardly seem alive. That's how the Africans endured through slavery and its ills. Their wit and sense of humor were more valuable than pills. And that is the end of the rhyme about the Pygmies with a little bit of knowledge at the end. Anyway, we'll read another one in another video. Show you the origins of polygamy and African polyandry.